Today we're driving the 2022 Polestar 2, and we are in the base model. We have the steel roof, the front-wheel drive single motor setup. We're rated for 270 miles according to the EPA, and with a federal tax credit of $7,500, you can actually get into this for under 40 grand. We've already driven the dual motor. Let's see how this single motor front-wheel drive Polestar 2 compares, and we'll walk you around this, take it for a drive, and give you guys some thoughts at the end of the video. So we have a slightly different interior. You can see on this door panel some different materials from the dual motor that we had a few months ago. I actually really like this interior. These cloth seats are very nice. They're super comfortable. They have a cool design, a little bit of Alcantara on the inserts here. All the materials are vegan and free range, gluten-free, non-GMO, all the usual stuff that they're putting into electric cars these days. It's a very nice place to be. And without the panoramic sunroof, you have a little bit more simplicity. It's slightly darker in here, of course, but you save some money. And yeah, let's walk you around this. On the outside, it looks mostly the same. We have the 19-inch wheels on this Polestar 2 today. I think a lot of people are going to swing for the 20s, but these 19s actually ride a little bit nicer, maybe slightly quieter than the 20-inch wheels that we had on the last Polestar 2 we drove. Michelin Primacy tires, and this just lift-back design that I think is probably kind of cool. It's not quite a sedan, it's not quite a crossover or SUV. We have 5.9 inches of ground clearance, a decent amount of storage back here. Of course, the seats fold down very nicely. You got a cargo cover, no spare tire, unfortunately. I do really like the design on this Polestar 2. It's a really sharp-looking car. It's kind of reminiscent of some Volvos, and of course, Polestar is associated with Volvo. They're owned by Geely, their parent company, but really they kind of just do their own thing. Geely doesn't have much of an influence on Volvo or Polestar, and though they parts share with a lot of Volvo products, this is also very similar to the XC40 electric, built in the same factory. This is kind of Polestar doing their own thing and going in their own direction. I like the design language, I like their logo, it drives really well. Let's see what type of room is in the back seat, just as a little refresher. Again, if you want to see a full review on the Polestar 2, check out my dual motor drive. This is mostly just going to be kind of comparing the base model versus the more expensive options. Plenty of back seat room in here. I'm 5'10", set to my driving position. I have a ton of legroom, even some space underneath the front seats to put my feet. It is a little bit Spartan in this base model. You don't get heated rear seats like you do with the Luxe package. That's an extra $4,000. But you do get some cup holders, nice headrests, and it seems to be pretty comfortable back here. I have a nice high roof height, plenty of headroom. And again, the interior materials are surprisingly nice. You do get a small frunk or front trunk in this Polestar 2. Just pop it like you would pop the hood. There's no release on the key or anything. And you've got a little latch here to the right, and you can fit a small bag, a small photography bag in here, and maybe a couple other things. But you've got electric motors and air conditioning accessories and everything in here, so it's nice that they give you something. Pretty sharp looking car. Let's hop inside, we'll start it up. All you have to do is just hop in, put your seatbelt on, tap the brake, and shift into gear, and that starts the vehicle up. If you want to stop it or turn it off when you're done driving, all you do is just put it into park and walk away. Pretty simple. It's kind of weird not having a stop-start button at first, but you get used to it, and it's actually really nice. You get into another car, and you have to push a button or go through a whole startup sequence, and this just simplifies everything. We have this Android Automotive OS here, and I've got to say, the more I use it, the better it gets. It's pretty responsive, pretty quick for a touchscreen. Definitely better than Volvo's touchscreens that we've had these last 4 to 6 years. We have Google Maps, which is integrated into the car. It works super well, voice recognition, really a pretty nice system. They don't have Apple CarPlay yet in this system, but it is going to be added in an over-the-air update later this year sometime. So you have kind of this main screen that takes you to all of your different applications. You've got your music, Google Voice, your phone connectivity, your maps, and then you've got some quick access controls here for vehicle dynamics. You can turn off traction control, change your steering weight. I kind of prefer light, honestly. And you have your one pedal drive and creep controls down here. Creep is basically just, if you turn creep on, the car's going to creep forward like it would with a normal automatic transmission. And you have to press the brake at stoplights. If you turn it off, one pedal drive will bring you to a complete stop, which is actually kind of how I prefer driving this car. You can turn one pedal drive off, have a medium setting, or just have it standard. And in standard mode, you pretty much don't have to press the brake pedal ever, unless if you have a really tight braking zone or you're coming in a little bit too hot into a corner. And this car's pretty quick. It's still 0 to 60 in 7 seconds, even though it is the front-wheel drive single motor. We still get the full-size battery pack. So this is a 78 kilowatt-hour battery pack, 75 kilowatt-hour usable battery, and that's rated for 270 miles according to the EPA. They just gave this a rating, and I'm sure it's probably good for a solid 270 in the city. On the highway and in the cold, you're going to get a little bit of a range hit, but that's a decent amount of range for a car like this. And on these 19-inch wheels with the lightweight roof, the steel roof instead of the glass top, this is probably going to be the most efficient Polestar 2 and the least expensive. And on first impressions, it's actually a pretty nice place to be. I think if I were going to swing for one of these, this is what I would get. I would get the cheapest option. It's just a great car. And that's kind of my favorite thing about the Polestar 2, is it's not trying to be different. It's not trying to be gimmicky or inventive. Really, the only funky thing is just kind of the minimalism within this display, but you still get a lot of physical controls and buttons, actually just a lot of Volvo switchgear everywhere else, and it all works very well. So here's your drive mode screen. You can also go in and change your driving assistance. This does have lane keep assist, but it does not have radar guided cruise control. It does not have the Pro Pilot assist or anything like that, but it's nice that you can easily turn on and off these settings very quickly. You can go in and change cruise control to a speed limiter or just standard cruise control, which is kind of cool. You've got all your charge settings here. You can set a charge limit, which is great, and the amperage there that you want to put juice into the battery. And you've got a bunch of other kind of more in-depth settings here, like your car status, interior lighting, intensity, mirror settings, all that good stuff. And then here's just kind of your main screen for all of your apps. You can download some apps with the Google App Store. You've got Google Play, lots of different things to do in this car, and I'm sure they will add more functionality to it all as time goes on. On the screen to the right here, you can change the owner or the key or the profile of each driver, and that'll kind of correspond to whatever settings are in the car. Over here, you've got your reverse camera. It says rear auto brake. Pretty wide angle camera, though it's not perfectly centered with the center of the car, which you can kind of see, but it is still pretty easy to get this positioned where you need to with the lines and everything. All right, I think let's take this Polestar 2 for a drive. Some specs, 231 horsepower. And it's funny because I just came out with a Kona electric video, and I said 200 horsepower is the max that a front-wheel drive electric car should have. Well, Polestar has given us 230, and it's perfect. Great amount of power, and it kind of blends onto the power really in a smooth and linear manner. This isn't torque steering everywhere. It's not spinning its tires everywhere. It's a very controlled and pleasant driving experience, and I think for a daily driver, this is the perfect amount of power in an electric vehicle. Steering is nice and light. And apologies to those headphone users. You're not going to be hearing much in this video. This is an ultra silent EV. There's no piped in noise. Again, no gimmicks. It's a very quiet driving experience. This interior seems to be pretty well bolted together. We've got a few accessories rattling around in the glove box and just things that were left in this vehicle. That's pretty much all you'll hear in this Polestar 2. A little bit of wind noise once you get on the highway. This is full regen off throttle. Pretty good amount of deceleration. I love these frameless mirrors. The driver's side mirror gives you a little bit of a wide angle fisheye cutout to the far left, which is always fun. It really gets up to speed in a very nice way. The tuning of the throttle and off throttle with the regenerative braking in this Polestar 2 is just about perfect. I think it's even better than what Tesla has done. Let's go in and put us into ESC Sport mode. We'll put the steering in firm. You have a couple different gauge displays. You can see your map, and all of your kind of drive settings are minimized. Handling is actually surprisingly good too. Really, I like the steering. There's a ton of front end grip. On throttle, it tracks beautifully out of a corner. I feel like you can feel the lighter weight setup of the single motor Polestar 2 versus the dual motor. Definitely helps in the handling department. The dual motor is fun and it is quite a bit faster, but can't help but feel that it's also a little bit excessive power for the street. This is just a really nice power level. On the highway you get a good amount of pull. No complaints there. Let's get us pull our maps back up here. Dynamically, I really don't have any complaints about the way this car drives. Traction control might be a little bit invasive even with it off, but again, this is kind of similar to the way the traction control systems have reacted in Volvos. You can feel some brake vectoring going on around corners, and this is not a car that you're going to take out and just completely let loose in, which is fine. Keeps you safe. Top speed is around 100 miles per hour. Cruise control, even though it's just old-fashioned, not smart cruise control, it works great. It's super easy to change your speed, 5 mile an hour increments. You can hold for single mile an hour changes. Normally you would be able to swipe between Pro Pilot Assist and normal with these right-left buttons and your following distance right here, but of course we don't have that in this base model, which I think is actually just kind of fine. You can focus on driving and have a little bit more of a pure driving experience. Still trying to decide whether I prefer light, standard, or firm steering. They all feel pretty good. Even the bass sound system is pretty decent. I don't have my phone connected. I just got into this car today, but let's see if we can just play a quick track here. Getting into the actual brake pads on rotor there. Brake feel is nice. It's a nice firm pedal. Bass sound system is pretty good too. The Harman Kardon in the other Polestar 2 that we drove was pretty nice as well. Kind of can't go wrong with either option in my opinion. Again, this base model for under 40 grand after the tax credit is a pretty compelling option. Otherwise, it's about $47,000 if you don't qualify for the tax credit. Off the line acceleration here. No torque steer, just smooth acceleration. Look how much regen power there is too. unlike a Tesla, you don't have to wait for a few minutes for that full regen to really come on and for the battery to warm up. At least today I didn't have to. Really my only complaint is the ride is a little bit choppy, a little bit firm. These 19-inch wheels definitely reduce that compared to the 20s. And you get a little bit of cabin intrusion over potholes and larger bumps. But these are minor complaints that I don't think would bother too many people. Also not really sure what the tire pressures are on this Polestar 2. I think Polestar could soften the suspension up in all of these cars just a little bit, even with the Öhlins dampers. Let's do a little Google Maps demonstration here. M1 Concourse.
Okay, I'm setting your destination to M1 Concourse in Pontiac.
Perfect. And we're off. This Android automotive operating system is actually really nice. After using it for a couple days with the last loan that we had and the last few hours in this Polestar 2, I don't really miss Apple CarPlay that much. And it will be nice, of course, to get it someday, but for now, the functionality of this Android OS is really quite good. And here we go, against the competition, Tesla Model 3. The one pedal drive here is just a highlight for me. It's so smooth, so seamless, so perfectly calibrated. I like that you get navigation directions here in the center display. And if you want to have your screen focusing on something else, you can use this as your navigation screen, which is great. Tesla Model 3s haven't quite taken over in Michigan yet like they have in some other states, but it is nice to have something just a little bit different in the EV space, and I think really that's really where this Polestar 2 comes into its own. Something different and something just a little bit cool. For a front-wheel drive car, the handling is just phenomenal here. Really sharp turn end, great front end. I would highly recommend going for these just 19-inch wheels with the Michelin Primacies. You could probably get a slightly quieter tire on here, but from the factory, this feels pretty good. It would be nice to see some more fun colors from this Polestar 2 besides just neutrals. Maybe some nicely saturated blues or reds or a green, something funky. Have a little bit of fun with it. But that said, ultimately, Polestar has a really great start with this vehicle on the market. I never got the chance to get behind the wheel of a Polestar 1. I would love to at some point, but I don't think there are many vehicles around, at least in Detroit. And the Polestar 3 is coming out soon too, so that's going to be pretty exciting. As a mainstream entry into the electric vehicle market, this Polestar 2 is a really good option. It's a fun car to drive, it's easy to live with, easy to use. There are a few little minor gripes here and there. It's a little bit loud on the highway, rides a little bit stiffer than it could be, but ultimately, this is a really great car, and I think living with something like this on a day-to-day would be hugely satisfying, very rewarding, and this base model really does hit a sweet spot in terms of value, features, and I actually kind of like the interior a little bit better on this base model. It feels like you're getting 40 grand worth of car in this. whereas maybe some of the higher end interiors, like the center stack plastic and material here, all this vegan stuff, is a little bit cheaper in a $60,000 car. So I like these cloth seats too. These are heated. You got your heated seat controls right there. Climate control seems to be pretty straightforward. Again, it would be nice to have physical controls for that, but for the most part, it's pretty self-explanatory, and you can kind of set it and forget it. One advantage to going with a higher trim or a Lux pack is you get the heat pump, and that is definitely good for about 10% of extra range in cold weather driving. So if you live in a colder climate, that might be an option worth checking. Still though, is that 10% worth the extra money? Again, that's a deciding factor that you will have to come up with. Well guys, I think that's going to be our drive in the Polestar 2 single motor, the base model. I really did want to opt for the absolute base model for this drive today. You can spec some more options, but as it sits, I think this is really good value. It drives well. It has a great set of features. It looks nice on the inside and out. A pretty compelling option in the EV space. If you don't want a Tesla Model 3, this might be one of the next best options, along with a Mustang Mach-E. And I don't know, there's a kind of a sedated cool factor to this Polestar. I think it's a little bit of an unknown. It looks like a Volvo, but also it's not a Volvo. And you've got the backing and everything from Volvo as their parent company. I would gladly put one of these in the garage next to my 1997 Volvo 850R. Just saying. All right, guys. Well, I think that's going to wrap up the video. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks for watching. Definitely going to keep an eye on Polestar here. Excited for what they do in the future. Right now, though, they're off to a really strong start, and I really like what they're doing. I'm a big fan. Again, all we have to do to turn off the Polestar 2, we've already got it in park. Just open the door and walk away. I think really one of the most compelling things about this car is that it is just a normal car, and you don't really have too many concessions besides just the fact that it's electric. It's not too difficult to use. Interior ergonomics are very user-friendly. Of course, Polestar could add more functionality in the future. You know, if you're at a charging station and you're bored, you could, throw some Netflix or games on like Tesla has in their cars. But I don't know, that's still a little bit of a gimmick. You can also just use your phone too. And for the most part, I think people are going to be using these cars with at-home charging most of the time. And overall, I think a pretty nice alternative to the Tesla Model 3. A little bit more stylish, a little bit better built on the inside. All right, guys, that's it for this one. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more on this Polestar 2 single motor, I uploaded a video to the Wine Road Magazine YouTube channel, just a POV day drive, no talking. You can hear the sound of silence that this Polestar 2 makes behind the wheel. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.